Hello, welcome to another episode of Namtaro Talks. Today's episode was a topic that I've had on my mind for quite a while. I did not go into this one with preliminary notes, but I have a relative outline of what I want to talk about. Yet it might be against my better judgment making this episode because I made one yesterday, and this one I consider 10:30 a bit late. And truth be told, the length of the episode is not how long it takes to make the episode. There is a lot of pausing and editing and changing formats and making a video and finding a picture of a rabbit. And you can kind of tell which episodes are not really a struggle, but a bit more of a challenge to find relative talking points and keep talking, but be insightful, and which episodes just kind of flow more naturally. Like, I stand by all my episodes and all my topics, but I admit there are some that were easier to make than others, and some that are more challenging, and some that come more natural, and some that require a bit more work. But that's all right. Today's episode is about knowing multiple languages. Yes, so you already know I'm Vietnamese American. Yeah, that's the thing about what I do on this format. I try not to disclose too much info about myself, and I probably said that many times, but I mean, you saw my videos. I went to Vietnam. I talk about Vietnamese stuff here and there. Yeah, so I'm Vietnamese. And one perk about being Vietnamese, well, for me anyways, is knowing how to speak Vietnamese. Yes, at first it was something I took for granted. Truth be told, Vietnamese was literally the first language I learned. Of course, right now, I'm way better at English than Vietnamese, but I could hold my own in Vietnamese, I believe. I could kind of get by in Vietnam. I did last time I went. Yeah, but from birth to kindergarten, all I spoke was Vietnamese. I spoke little to no English. Like, my parents, I just spoke mainly Vietnamese at home. So I understood Vietnamese. I learned Vietnamese. I replied in Vietnamese. I remember my first day in kindergarten. I was completely lost because I had little to no English, but I just picked it up. And also, it didn't hurt to have a Vietnamese babysitter. Of course, she had very limited English, so I had no choice but to learn and speak Vietnamese with her. Yeah, and she was my babysitter for I don't remember how long, until I was 8 or 9. Yeah, but when you're young, you learn, I guess, basic words, basic concepts, understand basic commands, and of course you learn different, not, I guess, sayings or idioms, and maybe some nursery rhymes here and there, and or there's some kids media. Well, back then it was called Thế hệ trẻ, or Young Generation. Translated. So it was like little Vietnamese songs. It's like the Miss Rachel, but in Vietnamese. I guess. I have no idea. I don't watch Miss Rachel that much. But yeah, it felt seamless, It was integrated. It felt natural. So when I learned English, I had to begin to integrate the best of both. Well, I talk about worlds and cultures, but we're talking about languages in this episode. So you gotta find like the English parallel to the Vietnamese word and the Vietnamese concept. Of course, eventually you learn verbs, nouns, adjectives. You gotta learn how to describe stuff. You put basic sentences together, then you string together paragraphs. And of course, if you are having a second language, they typically may make you go to a second language school on the weekend. Yeah, so Chinese kids got Chinese school. Like, I had a Vietnamese school. Like, some kids go there just to hang out and mess around. I mean, I did some of that too, but I still kept up with the homework, followed the lesson plans. One drill that they typically pushed us in was called a chính tả, or dictation, where they literally say the Vietnamese words or sentence and you had to write it down. And Vietnamese is a tonal language, so yeah, similar to Mandarin. So you can just say one pronunciation, but depending on what tone you put on it, it has a totally different meaning. Like, ma means ghost, ma means mom, ma means horse, ma means butt, like the contraction, that is. And there's something similar with the Chinese also. Okay, Mandarin, yeah, the language. But yeah, after a while, you learn the rules, you learn the nuances, and after also, there's accents in Vietnamese too. Like, different regions have their own accents. At least the 3 regions each have their own accents, and sometimes they're kind of hard to distinguish. Well, not really distinguish, but understand. It's like they say a sentence, but you interpret it and you think you know Vietnamese, but it is like one region has they speak more in a question mark voice, or one region it is kind of passive aggressive. Another region it's much more tonal, like chop 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 chop. And the Vietnamese I learned growing up is like my parents and grandparents Vietnamese. It's like how they spoke back in the, I'm guessing, 60s, 70s, 80s. It's not how they speak now. Like I go back to Vietnam, I speak Vietnamese. They understand me, and maybe the older adults still do, but the youngins, oh my God, I barely understand them. They barely understand me. But we still understand each other. We get by. We communicate and whatnot. And don't forget about the slang. Oh my God, and all the term. It's like you come to America and you learn English. You're not gonna say, "Yo, what's up?" You know. And they say that you are proficient in a language when you begin to think in that language. I'll be honest, I don't think in Vietnamese. I don't think I ever did. But it's like a switch that you gotta turn off and on, like depending on who you're talking to and in what situations. Like, okay, I speak English with this person, I speak Vietnamese with this person. You can even have a mini switch for the tones too. Like, oh, this person's from the north, I speak the north accent. This one's from the south accent. But you learn to make comparisons. You learn the words, the parallels, the definitions. You become your own Google Translate, pretty much. Yeah, those are the two main languages I know and speak. But of course, I picked up several other languages throughout, I guess, my academic career. Well, I did briefly try to learn French, but personally, I did not really enjoy it as much because one, too many silent letters, and two, a lot of conjugation. I know Spanish has conjugation too, but there's more like parallels to English in Spanish and more easy to pick up. And I admit I learned some Spanish from Sesame Street. They at least taught me the numbers and the colors. I remember back then, before Arthur, like the TV show, it started off as a book, but it also had computer programs. But then we go through the computer program book through English, but they had a Spanish version, so I went through all that through in Spanish also. Yeah, just for kicks, and you learn to distinguish like the colors and the animals. But of course, languages, it's about practicality and applicability. I mean, you learn a language not just for funsies. You want to eventually use it and integrate it and experience that culture and that media and connect with people who also speak that language. I admit, I learned like French for a couple years, and I went to Montreal, tried to speak French and order at McDonald's. Like they had no idea what I said. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to learn French anymore. It's still a beautiful language. I like how it sounds. I like French music, believe it or not. A lot of good French music classics. Of course, everyone plays a La Vie en Rose. That's like the signature French song. Of course, songs by Edith Piaf. Well, I digress. Yeah, the high school I went to, there were a fair amount of Chinese and Taiwanese Americans. So, of course, I gravitated towards learning Mandarin. Though I started at Mandarin 1 as a sophomore, so I was like 1 year behind, but it's all right. There were just a few more underclassmen in my class. For me, like you learn the rules of language, you have the translations, but of course, writing Mandarin is difficult. You gotta remember all the characters, and you gotta write them all down. Like nowadays, I can't write most of the Mandarin characters for the life of me, but I still remember many words. I have I guess, respectable vocabulary. I mean, you throw me in China, I'm not going to survive. But I pick up words here and there, and I am really pulling from far back deep from my Mandarin education to communicate with my wife and her extended family. But that's the thing, like if you're not a native of a language, but you make an honest effort, they most of the time they appreciate it. Like they commend your efforts. Though unfortunately, I don't think that can be the case for English, because people may make fun of your English or think that your English accent is like terrible, or not English accent. It's like the English language, but the accent from your native country while speaking English. Like the Chinese accent, the Vietnamese accent, Japanese accent, Korean accent. Okay, those are all the Asian countries. But of course, all the different European countries have their own accents when speaking in English. Even English itself have its own accents based on like the region you're from. Like Boston has an accent, the South has an accent. And of course, regarding the culture that you consume, whether it's during your formative years or it's something that you're kind of drawn to based on your peers and social circles, you want to learn the language of that pop culture you're consuming. Like if you like anime, J-pop, J-rock, you might gravitate towards wanting to learn Japanese, or you'll pick up certain Japanese words and terms here and there. Same goes for like those who like K-pop and watch K-dramas. Like I say, I wouldn't survive in Japan. But I know some words. I can throw it together here and there. And in the land of Google Translate, I am not shy with speaking certain like Japanese words, you know. Yeah, I'm not shy with Japanese. I'm not shy with Spanish. I attempted Spanish with Rosetta Stone, and I mean, I was going well, but I guess I kind of tapered off. I admit a little bit of laziness, but they're more accessible, you know. And the people who know multiple languages and can switch between all those languages, I really commend them. Yeah, like I go to Japan, I can ask for directions and express myself like, "Oh, this tastes good," or "Thank you," stuff like that. I go, well, I have a lot of Spanish-speaking patients. I can at least express some commands and directions and basic questions. I guess as you don't sound like a gringo or you just disrespect the language, not just Spanish but any language, then it should be fine because you're making an honest effort. Because okay, you speak English to them, their English isn't as good. They speak broken English back to you, but then you speak their spoken native language to them. They kind of appreciate it more. I mean, you can't have a whole full conversation, but you kind of build a bit of rapport, you know, not just with patients, but with people in general. And like I said in the previous episode, it's cool to know stuff, not just for trivia, but make connections. Of course, I can count in English and Vietnamese and Spanish and Mandarin, kind of in Cantonese, but I forget the later numbers. Same goes for Japanese and Korean, because I briefly took a Taekwondo and they make you count in Korean for that. But like water, like Vietnamese is nước, Chinese is sui, okay, Mandarin, Japanese is mizu, of course Spanish is agua, dog, Vietnamese is chó, Mandarin is gao, Japanese is inu, Spanish is perro. And it makes me think about the people who had no choice, who are immigrants who came to America or came to a different country, and they literally had no choice but to learn the language of the country they emigrated to. Immigrate. Oh man, I always get emigrate mixed up sometimes. Yeah, like my parents had no choice but to learn English, and not just like some English to get by, like hi, hello, like English to like read forms to sign documents, or if you want higher education, you have no choice but to learn English for that. In America, anyways. Yeah, they gotta take like ESL classes and have tutors, and it takes them 3 or 4 times as long to read a document or read a book. But learning a language, it takes effort, it takes practice and repetition, but it also requires an environment to practice that language in, to be integrated. And I've come to realize that it is much easier to do it when you're young, in your formative years. I'll be honest, 2 languages that I had my eye on to get better at, well, okay, 3, Mandarin, Spanish, and Japanese. But yeah, my butt's getting a bit old, you know. I can sit down and buckle down and learn one or languages. But I'll be honest, I get distracted. Of course, there's work and personal life and other hobbies. It's just a matter of what you prioritize. Yeah, not to mention other responsibilities to do. But over time, I come to appreciate knowing more than one language. And I know a lot of people will never get that luxury. Not just in America with the American education system, but people in other countries who may never leave their home country or have means to travel. Because I can't imagine my life thinking and knowing and only speaking one single language. Because pretty much your internal dialogue and all forms of communication are that single language. Like there's nothing to draw from and connect to, not to mention the means of communication with people of other cultures would be much more limited. Yeah, and they say that knowing multiple languages is good for you cognitively with some sort of benefits for brain development. I don't get into the neuroscience of all that, but I could see it. It broadens your imagination. It makes you compare and contrast. Sometimes it even changes your perspective or puts you in other people's shoes. Like, why would they say that? Why would they think that? So it's not always about a cultural clash. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to flex or anything, but you can infer from my videos. I had a means to travel every now and then. And of course, I know I'll eventually travel to places where I don't know the language and they don't know English. Though English is pretty universal at this point. But I wasn't completely lost in Mexico or China or Japan or Vietnam, of course not Vietnam. And I know those places, yeah, they're English friendly. They got like English signs and words here and there also. And the places I went to may have been more English friendly or tourist friendly. I mean, I didn't get by in Japan because I watched anime or listened to J-pop, J-rock, whatever. It's because I just keep an eye out. You pick up some words or some terms here and there, and you already know having an idea of different languages exposes you to different cultures, like way beyond just the very surface level, like not just the food. Like not just Kung Pao chicken and sushi and tacos and burritos. You have a glimpse of their psyche, a glimpse of their geopolitics, a glimpse of their culture, and maybe even philosophy, a glimpse of their history, of course. Maybe even a glimpse of how they view us, view you as an American or as... It just gives you ideas, ideas of what's going on over there, or where they're doing. Because if you live your life knowing one single language with one way of thinking and one single monolithic culture, then you really close your own world. You never broaden your horizons, and because you don't know more, you don't know better, you think what you know is all there is, or it's the absolute best, or all you ever need to know, which is a sad, pathetic way to live. Because there are many different languages out there, cultures out there, people out there, places out there. So what the heck are you doing living in your own little bubble? And language, I suppose it's kind of like a imprinting. There's like a small time window to where it comes super easily. So I lament for those who did not get as much of an opportunity to learn a certain language or learn their native language if they were not born in America or were not Caucasian. But either the parents did not really had the means to teach the language at home, or they felt, oh, I gotta speak English to them to get them more integrated with America. I mean, I'm not knocking on those people. I mean, it is what it is. I just lament that it was a missed opportunity. It's not too late for them. It's never too late. They can still learn the language. It's just a bigger uphill battle to climb. But the good thing is those people, they are not completely oblivious to the language. They've heard it most of their life. I've seen and heard people who, they understand the language, but they don't speak it. They don't know how to reply. I'll be honest, my wife, I would not have been able to bond with her extended family and my in-laws as much if I had absolutely no background in Mandarin. I mean, I could still get by and we could still get close and we could still bond. It's just that those 3 years from way back gave me a teeny leg up, a teeny head start, even though I am very far removed from it and forgot most of it. I still got my textbooks, I still got my vocabulary cards, and nowadays there's learning a language is so easy. You have so many resources. You got YouTube videos, you got apps and programs like Babbel, Rosetta Stone, Duolingo. You got AI that you can speak the language to and it can speak back to you. Though personally I haven't tried that yet. Yeah, man, I got cousins who are trilingual or more. One can talk to his patients, conduct an evaluation in all Spanish. Another one is a pretty proficient in Mandarin and goes to China and does business deals or whatnot. Because learning an extra language, it gives you a leg up. It gives you an advantage, not just with communication, but also gathering information. Sometimes when you're at the supermarket and someone's talking bad about you, okay, not just the supermarket, but pretty much any public setting, and they purposely speak that other language because they think that you will not understand them, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. I mean, I'm not saying learn extra languages so you can eavesdrop on people who are talking bad about you, but not knowing a language, it's like being blind because you are completely vulnerable, completely oblivious. You have no means of communication. And what's worse is if they know your language, but you don't know theirs. They have an advantage over you right there. And of course, a language, it should be positive and constructive for building relationships and connections and networking. But if you don't even have the foundation, you don't have the basic understanding, then you can't get into the deeper perspectives and nuances. All you have are just some scientific studies and analysis and articles and scholarly books and textbooks that or old, outdated information from the past, or that may not even apply anymore, or only first-hand testimony from this or that person who was just around the people or in the area. But nothing beats with being integrated as much as possible. You can't even begin to do that if you have no concept of not just the language, but of the culture of the people. Because without language and understanding of culture, you reduce people to just stereotypes. The guys with the taco trucks and the labor workers. The people at the nail salon. I'm we are more than that, I mean, yeah, you can see that as a surface, but maybe we start like that because it's kind of extending the hand for a handshake, but there's different levels. And the more levels you get to, like the better. It could be applicable to food too. Like for Vietnamese food, you got like your pho and your bánh mì, but then the next level is like bánh canh and bún thang, bánh xèo, and then even like deeper levels than that, like bánh hỏi, bánh ướt, like bún chả Hà Nội, something like that. Same goes for Chinese food. You got your orange chicken, your kung pao, but then you got your dumpling, your dim sum, your siu mai, your hagao. Eventually, you get your biang biang noodles, and then you go to the spicy soup with like donkey meat and your stinky tofu. Like you can start with sushi and ramen, then you get to your bento boxes and your rice balls, and then you get your omakases and your omu rice much later. And you can start with tacos and burritos, but then you get to a napoles and menudos. Okay, I know this is a language episode and it kind of diverged to food, but it kind of serves as an example to get a deeper understanding, to just have a general idea of what's out there. You gotta start somewhere. That's not just stereotypes. That's not just super surface level. Because when you begin to understand and see more, hopefully you would be a little bit kinder. Hopefully you would understand, okay, this is why this person thinks this way. This is where they came from. This is why they find this or that important. This is why they act this way. And you get into deeper discussions with deeper concepts. And also it makes you gather information more efficiently. I'll be honest, I can read Vietnamese, but I take very long to read it. And just because I read it doesn't mean I understand everything. And I would rather listen to an English video or podcast than a Vietnamese one. I mean, I can probably work my way through a Vietnamese one, but it won't feel the same or hit the same. And the humor, yeah, that transcends like the different cultures and languages too. I guess which segues into the next point. My kid, I mean, I'm just saying in this podcast right now, I want him to be multilingual, ideally trilingual, but at least know more than just English, because we live in a more connected world. We're more globalized now. We live in communities with people from different races and cultures. Like we're exposed to so much different stuff, not just hot dogs and hamburgers and football and pickup trucks. I mean, I can only impart what I know, what I grew up with. Who knows, maybe he can like go out and learn some random language out there on his own just for kicks, or just because he likes that culture or follows that media. Because like I say, not knowing more than one language, it is a huge waste. Not to mention, it could be easy to oppress or difficult to negotiate or advocate for yourself if you don't know more than one language. And also from my experience, I think learning another language, the two main ways are, of course, integration or personal self-motivation. You gotta inherently want to learn that language. You gotta inherently want to put forth the effort. Maybe make it a game or make it a goal. Because from my experience and what I've seen, not just for me but other people, learning the language in a high school setting, it sucks. And there's little to no carryover. Like there's people who took 3 or 4 years of a language in high school, they completely forgot it. Or they never use it or touch it again the rest of their lives. Maybe it's a little bit better in college. I don't know. I didn't take a foreign language in college. But self-learning, self-discipline, consistent practice, integration, dialogue, those are all important components of a language and learning a language. Yeah, I know many people in similar boats as me. Maybe looking back, you resented having to go to those language schools. You resented like when your parents only spoke to you in their native language. Or not really resented, but frustrated because you can't really like advocate for yourself. You can't really talk back to them. But looking back, you're glad that they did, because it gives you a fighting chance. It broadens your mind. It opens your horizons. If you have a different ethnicity, it kind of gives you a bit of your own history. Like you're more rooted and grounded in your culture, like where you came from the past. Like you have an idea of where you came from. It's like people can be super racist at you and say, you go back to your country. And I'm like, no, I'm staying here. I got the best of like my world and I get the best of your world. You can learn about my world if you want, but you just gotta keep an open mind about it. Yes, and in this time and age, like you're no longer the foreigner. Like, oh, how exotic! Oh, he's the oddball out. But it's not always about diversity, equity, inclusion. Like, oh, I know this language. I'm a different ethnicity. I'm special. Well, it does give you a slight advantage, but it allows you to not really put on different masks but switches in your brain. Like, okay, like time to be hang out and integrate with this culture, this group, this language, and now time to check out that language or that culture. And because they are separate sometimes, you can't expect like them to conform to you. You just gotta be flexible with them. And knowing multiple languages, you won't really become a chameleon, but it helps you integrate a bit better. Honestly, after a few of these episodes, you kind of see myself repeating several concepts like, oh, achieve a balance and like broaden your horizons and keep an open mind, stuff like that. But how about a quick transition into like the very fundamental of it? It's fun. It's not all strictly for business and for communication and integration and broadening my horizons. All of that, it's fun. You get to compare and contrast. You get to see what works for you. Like, give part of your language to them. Take some of their language to what works for you. It's also a sense of pride. Like, oh, I know multiple languages. I can like talk to you here. I can talk to you there. Like, for example, we like international celebrities who know multiple languages. Yes, I know this day and age we have translators, but I'll be honest, translating it's hard and it sucks. It takes much more time and effort and energy than if you already knew the language. Yes, I commend translators, and we do need translators, but you only translate on the surface level, and your butt's only there for like kind of verbatim translating. Though sometimes I say one phrase and the translator like says a huge long phrase in that person's native language. I'm like, okay, I don't think you translated what I said specifically. Or if the other person says a huge giant language and the translator says like one short phrase. I mean, I'm not saying that you gotta be perfect at multiple different languages, but like if you knew the language, it's much more seamless. I know people say try to avoid politics and religion. I'm not saying like you knowing another language you get to talk about that kind of stuff, but maybe like deeper concepts like foreign events or philosophy or psychology or the state of the world or just not be beyond just like social basic everyday life like what you eat. Like you want to have a little bit of depth, you know? I mean, you have depth in your own native language and English. Okay, time for another corny metaphor. Knowing multiple languages, it gives you the means to open other people's doors, or at least knock on them, or get the keys to their door. It also opens up your own windows, so they can see into you. They can see who you are, where you came from, what you're like, what's important to you, how come you're the way you are. It opens the way for a two-way street, you know? Maybe one way is stronger than the other way. One way is like an asphalt road, the other way is a dirt road. It doesn't have to be completely even and reciprocal, but at least there is a road. There is like two channels like going back and forth between each other. Yeah, so the main takeaway message from today, if you know multiple languages, count your blessings and be proud of it, rock it, take full advantage of it. If you don't, it is not too late. You know there's so many resources out there. I mean, no one's forcing you to learn a language. Just pick what you're interested in. And don't just learn to learn. Maybe try to determine your intentions with the language. And please, start them young. Like, they're sponges when they're young. It's easy to imprint. It's easy to, like, formulate languages. Like, if I did not know Vietnamese at all, and I try to learn Vietnamese right now, I would be so screwed. I mean, I could probably do it, but it is nowhere the same as learning it from before I started school. Who knows, you could be not really an anomaly, but an interesting situation. Like, I know a half Samoan kid that knows Vietnamese. I'm like, how rare is that? You would never expect to see that. But there you go. But yes, multiple languages are practical and fun and opens your worlds and horizons and minds and whatnot. Yeah, you're probably sick of me at this point, all my platitudes, and it's okay. I appreciate you sticking with me. Thanks for listening once again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.